What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Now we're on the go-home episode of Raw to Wrestlemania, but did it deliver? Well, as we'll see, it really didn't. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the go-home edition of Raw, as well as some of the latest news, including Triple H discussing CM Punk in the WWE, Bret Hart rips the current WWE title, CM Punk reveals why he doesn't think Vince is concerned about AEW, WWE leaks a WrestleMania spoiler, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we aren't recapping the matches, but just providing you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, Lashley looks great. The WWE has done a great job building Bobby Lashley up from a mid-card muscle man into the Almighty, a wrestler who snaps necks and cashes checks. Somehow they've even found a way to make Lashley look even more dominant as WWE Champion, with the big man counting his Raw reign of terror as he prepares to defend the belt against Drew McIntyre. Now, although the WWE made a serious blunder by splitting up the Hurt business, there's still no denying Lashley has been built up into a monster heel. But as bad as the Hurt business blunder is, the WWE didn't have Lashley hold anything back against his former teammates last night, with Lashley destroying Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, an excellent way of showing Lashley has no mercy for anyone who stands in his way. If Drew McIntyre defeats Lashley, and it's certainly looking that way, he'll have a major win under his belt. Number 2, the Riddle-Sheamus build-up, and where does Ali fit in? A Matt Riddle vs Sheamus seems like it could be a sleeper sensation for WrestleMania, as both superstars have been working hard to further the hastily thrown together storyline. While it remains to be seen whether Riddle and Sheamus' style will gel in the ring, they've added some intrigue to the match by having Mustafa Ali involved in the storyline. Will Mustafa help Sheamus win the US Championship, or does he have plans on winning it for himself? Ali's addition to the storyline was one of Raw's few highlights and could add a lot to the Riddle vs Sheamus bout. But that was the good. What about the bad? Is number 1, Shane's boring Braun build-up. Now, on paper, Shane McMahon vs Braun Strowman should have been the wild brawl fans expect from both men, with Shane O'Mac and the Monster Among Men likely turning up the violent style even further since it's WrestleMania. Unfortunately, the build-up for the match has been boring, that we are concerned that Shane will phone in the match, since he's obviously been phoning in his promos and the other parts of the sorry storyline building up their match. Perhaps Shane is too busy focusing on his $500 cameo videos, while the 51-year-old has lost his love for the squared circle. On a side note, is someone really ribbing Braun Strowman by keeping that damn choo-choo sound in his entrance music? It's juvenile and it's ruined his character even more. Number 2, wasting words and squandering styles. While there was a definite dearth of build-up for WrestleMania, the WWE did hype the New Day vs AJ Styles and Omos' tag match by having Xavier battle AJ. The only problem was that match was shockingly short and a complete waste of both men's undeniable skills. What could have been an exciting match was instead another example of Raw's half-baked booking. Number 2, The Fiend and Orton AWOL. The Fiend and Randy Orton were nowhere to be found on last night's Raw, a surprising move considering it's one of the biggest feuds from the Red brand. While The Fiend is best used in small doses, they should have at least had a promo for Randy Orton, who'd been great in his role as Wyatt's bewildered opponent. An Alexa appearance wouldn't have hurt either, but apparently the WWE either feels the match needs no further hype, or they don't want to set the fans up for disappointment when the match takes place. As previously reported, a rumour has it that the WWE is going with a regular match between Orton and The Fiend, rather than a stipulation match. Even worse, the current scuttlebutt is that The Fiend will squash Orton, quite the anticlimactic finish to their feud, and one certain to disappoint if it happens. Number 3, begging boos for Bobby. On watching Bobby Lashley's booking, it's clear that WWE are doing everything in their power just to get Bobby booed and Drew cheered, rather than letting the fans decide on who they want to root for. This is a bad idea on at least 2 levels, the first being that it shows the WWE wants to have its way rather than the fans. We'll tell you who to cheer for and who to boo. That's their motto, isn't it? The second is that the WWE is missing out on an organic opportunity to see who is over and who isn't. If Bobby is more popular than Drew, deal with it and capitalize on it. While we don't wish any ill will on McIntyre, who deserves praise for his efforts over the last year and working to get over during the pandemic, we can't help but wonder whether the fans at Raymond James Stadium will turn on McIntyre just to spite Vince McMahon. But that was bad. What about the downright ugly? Raw was abysmal and awful. Congratulations to the Red Browns creative team for scoring its second Downright Ugly award for the second week in a row. The WWE Universe is used to Raw being the WWE's second-class show, despite a surplus of skilled superstars, but last night's build-up for Wrestlemania was abysmal. This didn't even seem like a regular Raw, let alone an episode designed to get fans hyped for the WWE's flagship pay-per-view. Sadly, that wasn't the only Downright Ugly. The build-up for the Raw Women's Championship match has been a blatant rip-off of the storyline going over on at SmackDown between Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. The Blue Brand's story of can they coexist storyline was poorly planned, and even worse, poorly executed. So why recycle it on Raw? Did the Red Brand's writers think they couldn't do it any worse? If so, they were mistaken, as it was predictable and nonsensical. Why would Rhea and Bianca pursue the tag team titles with their opponent at Mania when they should be focusing on their singles matches? Rhea turning on Asuka would have made more sense if she tried to injure Asuka after turning on her, but the match instead made zero sense and reminded fans of Raw's totally lazy booking when it comes to the women's division. But that was the good, bad, and downright ugly of Raw. What did you guys think? Was this a go-home worthy episode of Raw for WrestleMania? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Now our first story looks at Triple H discussing CM Punk signing with WWE. The newly crowned IWGP World Champion Will Ospreay's challenge to CM Punk renewed rumors of whether Punk will ever return to the ring, with both the WWE and AEW's names coming up. During an appearance on the Pardon My Podcast show, Triple H discussed Punk potentially returning, questioning whether the straight-edge superstar even wants to come back. Last time I talked to Punk, a year and 3 quarters ago. A funny thing that people constantly will say when his return is, but in some way, I don't know whether he does or not, but that has to be what he wants. When people talk about, they go, make the call. What says if we make the call he wants to answer? What says if we make the call he doesn't go like, yeah, I'm not interested in doing that anymore. Maybe he's just done with it. A rumor has it that CM Punk invested his money wisely and does not need to return to wrestling. For short of an incredible reversal of fortune, the question of a CM Punk comeback may not be answered for a long time. Next up, why CM Punk thinks Vince isn't afraid of AEW. Speaking of Punk, the former WWE Backstage Special Correspondent shared his thoughts with TMZ about Chris Jericho's upcoming appearance on the WWE Network's Broken Skull sessions. Punk said he expects Austin's questions to Jericho to be softballed, but more importantly, he said the interview suggests Vince McMahon isn't too concerned about AEW. Honestly, my knee-jerk reaction and opinion is that I think it shows Vince McMahon isn't afraid of AEW at all. If he was, he wouldn't allow that to happen. Anytime anybody is talking about you, it's good. There will be people that don't know AEW exists who will watch it and say, cool, but I didn't know that, I just thought Jericho was retired. There's also something to be said about keeping your guys special, and the only place you can see this superstar is on my television show, but it's a new age and both companies need all the eyeballs they can get at the moment. Do you guys agree with Punk's assessment of Vince McMahon's attitude towards AEW? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Bret Hart rips the WWE title. Bret the Hitman Hart held the WWF Championship 5 times, proudly defending the winged eagle version of the belt against a variety of opponents. But the former champion recently shared his opinion on the winged eagle belt and how today's WWE Championship compares. He posted this video saying,
I always thought this was the most beautiful belt ever made, ever, in wrestling. God knows why they changed it to that piece of crap that they got. This is the winged eagle belt. It's the pride and joy of any wrestler that appreciates championships. And amongst fans, this is considered the real belt, a belt with a real history.
Now some fans think that WWE's contemporary World Championship belts are bland, while others like them. Which championship belt do you prefer? Let us know in the comments down below. Personally, I prefer the Winged Eagle belt. It is the most beautiful belt they've ever had in the promotion. And finally, WWE leaks a WrestleMania spoiler. It looks like the WWE social media department has goofed again, potentially spoiling one of the Mania matches for night 1. Sportskeeda is reporting the WWE accidentally tweeted a graphic earlier today revealing a fifth team in the match, Carmella and Billie Kay. The tweet has been deleted, but you can see the image below. After WWE's adding Carmella and Billie Kay, it's a sign they're going with the quantity versus quality approach to the women's tag team division, with Vince McMahon seeming to believe quantity has a quality all in its own. But there you have it, folks, the good, the bad and the downright ugly from this week's Raw, as well as the wildest wrestling news stories. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.